Mitch Lowe, welcome to my podcast.
Oh, mate, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. It's on a Sunday morning as well. So you're a concert promoter, so I'm guessing Saturday night, this is what I imagine Saturday night looked for you. Some ketamine, some MD, maybe 2 hours sleep, and then you're here?
Spot on 10 years ago. Unfortunately, last night for me was even harder than that. It was... I had my 9-month-old baby waking up a few times throughout the night, but I'm in the middle of 75 hard, so I'm not doing anything unusual party-wise at the moment. So.
Oh, you did 75 hard last year as well.
Yeah.
Why are you doing it again?
I decided once a year is what I will be doing from now on. I'm all or nothing sort of guy, so it's, summer was wild, and I just looked forward to getting back to, a bit of health and fitness. So every year.
Are you pissing all the time?
Yeah. It's funny. I always tell people that's the hardest part is trying to drink 3.5 litres of water every day.
It's so much water. Yeah, so 75 hard, 75-day challenge. You drink heaps of water,
Cheers.
Read 10 pages of some sort of self-help book, 2 workouts a day. One of them has to be outside.
Yeah.
What else is there?
Have you done it?
No.
Okay, you know a lot about it. Yeah, it's that's it. I swapped the reading for learning Turkish because my wife's Turkish and I want my baby to be bilingual. So I'm learning Turkish every day, and it's basically the water, the workout, learning something. There's phase 2, which I should be doing, it's like cold shower, manifestation, or visualization, all that. But I'm just repeating phase 1 every year. I think that's enough.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a lot. And if you. Oh, and you need some sort of diet as well, and also no alcohol or anything.
Yeah, sorry, zero alcohol.
And if you slip up at any stage, you're supposed to reset and go back to day 0.
Exactly. So I want to make sure that I nail it. So I'm all in, but I've only got 18 days left.
Oh, you're crushing it.
Who's counting? Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so who is Mitch Lowe, and what is your company, Audiology?
I am primarily in the music promotions game, so I'd call myself a promoter, but trying to be many other things, I guess, these days. Over the last 15 years, it's sort of progressed into lots of companies and offshoots of music, and more recently a restaurant, and done a tech company, and I've done, mate, I'm all over the show, so I guess I'm just an entrepreneur that's trying to make the most out of life at this stage, and recently become a family man, had a baby, and just enjoying the new challenges, that we go through every day.
Yeah, you fit a lot in, eh? You get a lot done. Like if I asked you to run through the 30 companies you've got, would you be able to name them?
No. No. Not.
Like it's so many.
I'm not that good, but no, it's I do fit a lot in. I still trying to figure out how, but it's just all go every day, and I try to do things I enjoy, so it's not every day fitting a lot in, but loving what I do. So if you're passionate about it, it's I know it's cliche, but it doesn't really feel like work. I'm just always on.
Yeah. Well, there's that saying, if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Exactly.
I'm excited to unpack the Mitch Lowe story and sort of deconstruct your success and try and get a peek inside that brain. But I think it's worth mentioning, you're in a group of people that have messaged me about coming on the podcast, which I find super inspiring. When I first started the podcast and that happened, I found it really weird. I thought, that's it was quite confrontational. And the more I think about it, I realise that's a me problem. And that's a tall poppy thing.
Yeah.
So now when someone messages me like you did about coming on, I find it super inspiring.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, why did you? Aren't you busy enough?
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you say that, because the flip side of that is someone like myself feeling like, am I worthy of being on a podcast, So you've always got this imposter syndrome where, have I achieved enough to have a conversation with someone like you that's done so much? So it's ironic that people sit with these feelings, but the reality is, we all want to connect, and we've all got something valuable to say. So I guess I only got to a point in the last year, and you can see if you go back on my socials, I was never face to camera. People knew Audiology, people didn't know that I owned it, and I just made this decision that I'm comfortable enough or confident enough now to be a brand, to be a part of my brand, and that comes with its pros and cons, as you would know, being a person that is sort of more face to camera. But I just made the decision that I want to link with good people, and what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is I just look like an idiot on a podcast, but best case scenario is I inspire some other people to take the chances that I took, dropping out of school and starting companies and saying yes to too many things, and just give another side of it, and just show that if you fail enough times, you can succeed. So hopefully that's the direction it takes.
Well, full respect. And another thing that's worth mentioning, you've done this, Michaela Blythe, double gold medalist, New Zealand Rugby Sevens legend, she did this as well. You sent me like a detailed list of like bullet points about potential things that we could cover, which is awesome as well. It's great. We've got a mutual friend, Mitch James.
Oh, yes.
I messaged him yesterday to say you were coming on the podcast, and he sent me back like a 2-minute long voice note. He calls you Goat Lowe.
He does.
Yeah, the greatest of all time. I won't play you the whole voice note, but I'll paraphrase it. He doesn't see limitations or boundaries, and he loves to do the impossible.
Oh, that's a lot nicer than I was expecting. No.
He did say something about you guys running amok in Sydney and taking doors off a hotel room or something.
Look, there's a few stories there. But no, look, he's one of my best mates. We've got his last ever show coming up. There's a long history there, which is incredible because we partnered up and built his career together, and we just became absolute best mates, inseparable. And he went off on another journey, and now we've come back together 8 years later to do his last ever show and see him off in the music game. So it's actually like super emotional ending, but he's just still throughout all of the drama and everything we've been through, he's still just my best mate. And so he's I call him Goat James, and that's Goat Lowe, Goat James, and we just took on the world. We were just young, out of control, 20-year-old, well, mid-20-year-old. Well, he's younger than me, but we were just out there trying to achieve the impossible. And he always had the same vision that I did.
And was it you that linked him up with Ed Sheeran to be the opening act for Ed Sheeran on his New Zealand shows? Yeah,
it was a series of events, but effectively we partnered with someone in Australia that then did the Ed Sheeran shows, and then that sort of got him that supporting slot. Mind-blowing meeting Ed Sheeran and going on that tour. That for me was like a really pivotal, like, wow, like what we're doing is actually, it's good. Before that, doing lots of club shows and bringing international artists, but being in the presence of Ed, who's borderline number one in the world for so long, that was a huge achievement for us.
Yeah, was it just one of those moments where you realise, okay, there's levels to the game? And,
yeah. And that doesn't mean that I'm not at that level. I'm not touring those acts that are selling out 3 stadiums, but just to even be a part of it is more than enough for me. And that's a memory that I could retire on that memory.
Well, you're no slouch yourself. Like, you've brought some impressive people to New Zealand, and we'll get into that later. But first of all, it's a real simple question and a yes or no answer. Did you smoke weed with Snoop?
No, sadly not. That was the goal.
Because I reckon even if you're a non-smoker, you wouldn't pass up that opportunity. It's iconic.
No. It was just tough to get any time with Snoop. Like we just met him. He said thanks, and but trust me, that was on the bucket list.
So I live just around the corner from the studio we're in at the moment. I've got an apartment that overlooks Victoria Park. There was a big concert that you put on there at the beginning of 2025. A guy called Fisher, and I'm showing my age here. I had no idea. I had no idea who he was, but I could see the week leading up to the concert, the temporary fences, because it's not a traditional concert venue. The temporary fences being erected around the outside, over a kilometre worth of fences, and then portaloos coming in, temporary bars, marquees, everything. And then the show was on, and then 3 hours later, it was all done. It looked like a tremendous amount of work for a very, very short, quick fix event.
Yeah.
What are the inner workings of a show like that? So you start with the artist.
And taking Fisher as an example, we were on his team's case since 2018. So that's almost 6+ years of until we actually delivered it. So start with the artist, eventually get the deal done, get the terms right, and then for us it was about taking an artist that he had been here but never since he had blown up. So it was taking this iconic artist and putting him into like an iconic venue, and we were the first to ever get Victoria Park and get the consent to do a actual festival there, which the first one was called Plain Sailing, but basically we've got the consent to do it one show there a year. And so I think when you marry things up, like when you take an act like Fisher and you put them into a venue, that's that iconic in the sense that it's like the Central Park of Auckland and nothing much happens there music-wise. It just was a perfect recipe, the right dates, beautiful weather, like everything just, that was a magic show, that one.
Oh, it was incredible. I watched it from my balcony and I could see people coming and then leaving and it was all very orderly. And it was wonderful, but it just seemed like such a insane amount of work for an event that only went for a few hours. So you lock in Fisher, so he gets a flat fee regardless of how many tickets get sold? How does that work?
No, so a lot of... so not many people understand how this works, but on a smaller scale artist, you've got just what's called a guarantee, so it's just a flat fee, whatever happens, happens. When you get to the bigger artists, there's either a bonus structure or it's called a versus deal, which could be 80% to the artist, 20% to promoter. As the artist gets progressively bigger, they can start demanding things like 90-10s, and when you get to Ed Sheeran's level, I'm sure you could do 98-2s if you wanted to, so because it's guaranteed sellout. So the structures they're forever changing, but effectively, for that one, it was structured based on the sales, and our goal was to do 20,000 tickets, and we smashed that. So, very like just a win for everyone involved, which is not always the case when it comes to promoting.
How do you know if you're going to make money on it? Like, do you as like sort of gut and just like cross your fingers and hope? Like, is it afterwards that you tally all the invoices and stuff and you work out if you've made a profit or a loss? Or
I mean, very detailed forecasting, and 15 years of doing it, you get a little better, I guess. But I've always said it's calculated gambling, and anyone that says it's not. Any promoter that thinks they've got a bulletproof solution would be lying, because it's you can look at the data all you want. So we take the stats, we know how many listeners the artist has in the city, we know how many TikTok fans or followers or Instagram followers, we know all the stats. But sometimes you get artists that have all the stats that flop. No one wants to see them live. I've seen that happen tons of times. And so there is a level of this gut feeling where we just knew that Fisher hasn't been here in that long. We're going to put him in that venue on that day, and this is going to work. Like and we were just all in. And a show like that is even for a large company, a show like that can be make or break. So there's still an element of gambling there, because it's you do the maths on of if you're 3,000 tickets short at $200 a ticket versus 5,000 tickets over, like the variables are just crazy. But honestly, with Fisher, we were just all in. We just had a really good feeling about it. We knew the break even. The only thing from the start is we need 18,000 tickets. Let's try get 23, or we need 10. Let's try get 15. That's what you know.
God, it's not for the faint, eh?
No.
But are you at a point now where your company Audiology is like so big that one failed show is not going to bankrupt you or cripple the company?
Yeah. I mean, to a certain degree, it could, because it has before, right? I've lost everything 5 or 6 times, so it's not. But no, we're at a point now where we wouldn't take a risk of a scale that would completely liquidate the business, which you've seen with some festivals. So we're always, and I don't operate the same way I used to because I've got a family now, and so I'm still crazy. I'm risk prone, but at the same time, I've just got to be a little smarter now. So we make smarter decisions, I guess.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Yeah, so you're a dad now. You've got a daughter called Kaya who's 8 months? 9 months.
9 months.
9 months. Yeah, what was that birth experience like? What was that? Were you there? Was it profound?
Right. Oh, I was in there. Yeah, it was everything. I mean, it was completely different to the movies, right? So I'm glad we did we did antenatal, and it's not like, oh, your water's broken and you rush out there, but it was more like, as I was making dinner, water breaks, call the midwife. Oh, okay, we should probably get you in the next 24 hours. Oh, just casual as, because they've done it so many times. But our journey was relatively standard in the sense that we, water broke, went to the hospital, and then it was 14 hours, I think, of labour, which is, long, but not. I've heard of much wilder stories, and then eventually you go through just the most intense 14 hours of my life, and then this baby comes out, and it's just the most crazy. That's just the one thing I miss. Like, when I hear of my friends having kids and stuff, it's almost you forget all the wild chaos around it, and it's just that feeling of when your child is born is like, yeah, it was mind blowing, which I think's the only reason why we're already talking about having another one, which is like great. It's kind of, I don't know how that happens. It's like you're wired to forget you forget what you went through. The trauma. It's incredible that you can forget that. But yeah.
Has it changed you in any way?
Definitely, yeah. It's I mean, obviously, it's changed the day-to-day life, in the sense of how my movements and trying to be there for my daughter, and I want to be a really present dad, which when you're running companies and you're trying to stay fit and you're trying to fit all these things in your day, but also be present. That's an ongoing challenge and something that I enjoy the challenge of it. But also, it's changed. It's just another reason to live. You sort of forget. You forget what I can't remember what I was doing before. It's kind of like, where did this time come from? And now when I'm building things, and if I'm developing a property, or I'm getting us trying to get us a holiday home or something, it's all with Kaya in mind. It's crazy because she's going to get all the benefits of everything that we're setting up. It's just it's just motivated me to do more, which on one hand, I thought we were going to have this baby and I was going to pull back on everything. I actually intended on selling out of as much stuff as I could and just keeping sort of like a few things on the side. And it was, had this baby and I was like, whoa, I got like a new wind. I felt like a fresh entrepreneur again, like ready to take on more. So yeah, I mean, life-changing is 100%.
I mean, what about you? And you're married, eh?
Yep.
Yeah. What's the meet cute? How long have you guys been together?
We got married December 22, so 2.5 years of marriage, been together for closer to 6. So still relatively fresh.
How did you meet?
Oh, yes. Man. We originally met because Azelle had a ticketing business, and that would have been, 10 years ago. We just ran into each other as she was pitching for my ticketing, and then never saw each other again. And both of us were in sort of long-term relationships. She was in America. I'd been living in Sydney, but I was back in NZ at this point. And I just decided, to reach out one day. She had won, she was winning all these awards, and I was like, who is this? Because we'd followed each other's journey, right? Because it's crazy. You meet once, and then you're linked on Instagram for life. LinkedIn, yeah. And I just remember watching Azelle just so, just those, oh man, New Zealander of the Year, this, and this. And I was just so impressed by her. I mean, obviously she's insanely beautiful, but I was so impressed with what she was achieving. And I don't know, one day I was like, Mum, do you think this is someone? And we're just pulling her up on Instagram and saying to my mum, do you think this is someone I should talk to? And she's like, absolutely. And then I set up a fake business meeting. Because that's when I started this tech company. So I reached out to Azelle knowing that she had done ticketing. I said, hey, can we have a coffee when you're next in New Zealand and chat about what it's like to start a tech company? The craziest part about that meeting is, she laughs about this all the time, is I got the vibe that she knew that it was a bit of that was flirting, but she turned up and I ordered a glass of red wine and and I don't even drink wine, and she ordered a coffee, and then it was just a semi-awkward me sitting there with this red wine trying to turn it into a date. Not a vibe at all, but somehow I managed to pull it back.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, because I wondered how the dynamic of that relationship worked. Because you're an all gas, no brakes sort of guy, but it sounds like she's sort of cut from the same cloth as well.
Yeah. And honestly, that was the part of that conversation with Mum was, man, we both live such busy lives. Do you reckon this could ever work? And it was more a case of just give it a chance, and obviously I didn't know much about Azelle outside of her success in her businesses and whatnot, but from the moment we linked, she's just such a warm, kind person, so it was straight away. I mean, what more could you want? I was like, this is going to work regardless of how busy each other are, and it did. That was never. Still now, we've both got our individual projects, but also we've got a lot that we work on together. There's so much overlap, and there's so much throughout our day where we're doing things together, as opposed to separately. So I think I don't know if that's part of the solution, but I'm I'm helping her with her companies. She's always giving me advice on mine. That's how a partnership, should be.
How long was it before you laughed about the red wine incident?
Oh,
it's so embarrassing.
Yeah, it was. Within the second or third date, because we hit it on the. So that happened, and how's this for backing it up with an even worse situation? Well, could have been catastrophic, but it worked out. So then we linked up again, like a fake second business meeting where we're sort of, bit more flirting going on. But the third time we linked up, I said, hey, I'm going to take you to a Bushdorf, which is this party that I ran out in 24-hour parties out in the bush. You get text on the day, the location, and so Azelle comes from this corporate background, and 3 days later I've got her in like fishnet stockings out in the middle of the Waikato, like. And I just knew it was make or break. Either she's going to absolutely love this, it's going to be the best experience of her life because she's never done this, she's never partied, she's never been out with a promoter, or she's going to absolutely hate it and just think that my friends are nuts because you're all just dressed up partying for 24 hours. Thank God that it was the first option there. So she just ended up having the best night of her life, and from that point, literally inseparable. I introduced her as my wife that night, and then I think a week later was lockdown. She came down to Tauranga and was stuck.
Wow.
You think that wasn't tactical, but it was. She stuck with me.
Yeah, it's funny. Lockdown. A lot of people seem to have that experience, and it's like it's going to make or break the relationship.
Yeah.
You mentioned your mum before too. That sounds like a nice relationship with your mum, like her being your wing woman.
Yeah.
In a way. Yeah. So let's go back and talk about your upbringing. So are you from Tauranga?
No. I'm actually South African. So moved from my parents. The classic, they just wanted a better life for us. They saw what was happening in South Africa at the time. So I was 9 years old, moved to Auckland. I'd say my upbringing would, very much Howick, East Auckland upbringing, from there, went over the ditch and lived in Sydney for 5 years and cut a long story short, eventually ended up back in the Mount when I left Sydney because Bay Dreams ended up taking off in New Zealand and I had to move back. So, I'm a South African, Kiwi, Australian.
Right. And must have been good values in your household because I've heard you say like your favourite word, like your North Star is integrity.
Yeah.
Is that from your upbringing?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm always, super proud of my family and super proud of, where I'm from. And, Mum's always instilled that in us, but, I don't know why that was such a big thing for me. Like, I just remember getting into the music industry and there was, a few wild things that happened at the start in terms of just realizing how people operate in this game. It's very, cutthroat and it's very like walk on top of others, or push them down to, I don't know. I just remember going, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to get into the music game, I want to operate with integrity and see if I can do it another way, and sort of just bring something different to the keeping in mind that was like the underground like night clubbing scene that I was in back then. It wasn't the sort of like the big pop concerts, but it was just. I just remember that being a huge thing for me. I guess all. Family influence, friends influence. Like I guess I was surrounded by good people, and I'm still got the same. Very proudly, I still have the same friend group from when I was 12 now. So it's kind of like it's just such a good group of us. And
yes, it speaks volumes. And integrity is a great word, but when the stakes get higher and money becomes involved, I'd imagine it's hard to stick to that sometimes.
Oh, 100%. But that's
especially when not everyone around you, but other people around you aren't playing the same playbook.
Yeah, and that's why I think integrity is such an incredible term or word or goal because it's extremely hard to always operate with 100% integrity, right? We're all gonna have made tons of mistakes, but I think just having it, like you said, is that North Star. Like what a cool goal, Like it's like a word that for me just encompasses everything that as humans we should strive to be. It doesn't mean. I wouldn't say that I've got 100% integrity. I say that I try my best, but the fact that it, just reminds me to work with honesty and often in this game you're faced with a choice a lot of the time. And sometimes there's an easy path and I can make the money and I can, and sometimes there's a harder path. And my go-to always now will be the harder path. Even it's a longer road, but the reward's greater at the end.
Yeah, and you can sleep better at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you told your parents when you were 14 that you wanted to work for yourself. What did you think that was going to be? Did you have an idea?
No, I didn't have an idea of what it would be. I mean, I was, buying $2 BB guns and selling them for $7 on Trade Me, and I was just a little. I get that a little bit from my dad, and so always sort of just hustling. So I didn't know what it would be. I just knew that I would somehow find a business. And the funny thing is, it was never about anything. I guess there's an element of like always wanting to prove people wrong, and I was always the naughty kid in school. And you even want to prove your family wrong, because I come from quite a, I take a lot of risk. Well, my mum's from banking, like she's the opposite of that. So like it's all I'm going to take these risks and I'm going to prove everyone wrong. But yeah, I guess for me it wasn't about what I did. It was I just remember looking at people that had their own businesses that had the freedom to travel, and all I ever wanted was to travel. Like we from a family of 4 boys, and we didn't get to go on overseas holidays and stuff when we were younger, and not hard done by, but like I just remember looking at travel as that was like the goal. If I could travel, if I could just didn't want to have $100 million. I just wanted enough money where I could travel freely. And all I did, and thankfully found promoting, because all I did for 10 years was literally I was on planes on $7 standby flights because I was on my, I couldn't afford travel, but I found ways where I was going to festivals overseas, and my friend who worked for the airline was giving me these standby travel flights. You'd sit there and wait, see if you're going to get on the flight. And that was my life for 10 years. I got to see the world, I got to experience other festivals, and I got to bring some of those ideas back to NZ.
And I've heard you say in other podcasts that you've got ADHD or ADHD traits. Have you been diagnosed or?
No, we did some pre-marriage counselling, and yeah, it's funny because this was only 4 years ago, and we did this like intensive 3-day. We just wanted to do this course and just be the best husband and wife that we could be. So it was a very intensive 8 hours a day for 3 days vibe, and I was just rambling on about something, and this and she's a fully registered trained psychologist or counselor or whatever it was, but she's like, can I stop you there, and because I was trying to work out why my brain's just so all over the place and why there's so many tabs open all the time, and she was my parents thought I had ADHD when I was a kid, etc., etc. She was the first person that said, hey, like, I just want you to know, like, you've got ADHD and these are the traits, and I went from there to, that was the first thing that happened, and then around that same time I was in this group chat with the people that I work with. So Audiology runs 150 shows a year, and there's 5 of us that work on it. Okay, and they somehow the topic popped up, and I was like, man, how are we, like, well done guys, how are we achieving all this stuff? And they're like, oh, that we've all got ADHD, right? So there's 4 of them out of the 5, me being the 5th. They're like, yeah, and I mean 100%, like, you should take this test. And I ended up I remember I spent one night just doing all these tests and scoring like 19 out of 21, and just being like, whoa, the word had been thrown around, but I'd never genuinely cared enough to actually look at it. And then when I did all those tests, accepted that it was a possibility, I did actually sign up for it takes like a year plus to get diagnosed in New Zealand, and I sort of put my name on the list and everything, but I sort of, that was the moment where I was like, okay, well now, what if I look at some of the ways to manage this? And I started like implementing some of these, strategies to like manage my life, and it's been 10 times better ever since. No medication or anything, but just small structural ways of like, when you've got a lot on, just being able to, just sort of understand it all a little bit better and slow down.
Yeah, because I think there's, the testing's never been better, so there's a better understanding about it, but this is how it was when I was at school, and probably the same for you. Like, it was generally like, just disruptive kids in class, usually boys.
Yes,
They were the ADHD kids, the Ritalin kids. But there's never been a greater understanding. But you were no good at school, eh? Like there was one term that you like wagged 80 classes.
Yeah.
Were you just did it just that sort of style of learning just not gel with you, or?
Yeah. It was. I mean, I'm still not huge on the schooling system, right? So,
is it not set up for people like you?
No. Well, it's. I mean, it's factually not, because you see the results of a lot of. I mean, if you just take my friend circle, for example, most of the ones that are running really successful businesses and, that are super entrepreneurial and super more sort of extroverted, not that plays a part, but like those are all my mates that dropped out when they were 15, from school, or the ones that were always in trouble, always, who just didn't fit into the system. And I guess I was just one of those that was every school report is, Mitch has so much potential, but if he just, he's so distracted, or he's like, and I was relatively naughty, but not intentionally, It was kind of like, I don't even know. I just
what sort of naughty? What did naughty look like?
No, exactly that. Like, instead of going to like a science class, I'm out drifting my car during lunchtime. Like, that's just who we were. That's just. Yeah, it's
You want to do what's going to spin your wheels.
No pun intended. And look, it was one of those weird ones where I still had like awesome relationships with the teachers, and I'm almost certain they knew that I was signing my parents' signatures every time, and it was funny when my mum found about 100 and something letters that I'd forged. No, it was. Yeah, look, I was just loud and distracted, but I think I knew what I wanted, and that's the part that really got me at school. It's like I knew I don't need to be learning this to achieve what I want to achieve, and I think there's still elements of truth to that now.
Yeah, I don't know if the New Zealand... I mean, I'm sure there are some really super inspiring teachers out there that are doing a great job, but I think for the most part, the New Zealand school system's not set up for dreamers and big thinkers. I had do you know Sir Peter Beck, Rocket Lab?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had him on the podcast earlier this year, and he told me about a parent-teacher interview when he was like 14 or 15, and the teacher said to his parents, Peter thinks he's going to send rockets into space. He's very smart, but we need to manage his expectations. Maybe he could get a job at the aluminium smelter. And he said his parents, they were just silent on the way home, and then his dad was like, well, fuck them.
Oh,
which is really cool. I get goosebumps just telling the story.
Now. I love it.
Now he's a billionaire. So cool. Like he's got this amazing space company. It's incredible.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. Amazing. And there's so many stories like that, and that's why I guess it's that's why I truly still believe that there's an issue in today's society with the whole schooling system as well. It's just not just when I was at school, but I think it's been there forever.
So you had a couple of jobs. You worked in the butchery at Woolworths and Amazon Surf and Skate.
Yeah.
Surf and Skate. And then a design course at Polytech, which you loved. Yes.
Yeah. So, that the example of, I guess, which backs up what I'm saying is, struggled at school, wagging periods, trying to get out of there. And then... I got just enough qualification to get early acceptance into this design school. So instead of doing 7th form, I was straight into Nat Gold Design College. And so going from being that kid, this naughty, distracted kid that wags every period, to then I got 100% attendance at my design school the entire year, never missed a day. In fact, I turned up 2 hours early every day, mainly because I needed to get a ride with my mum into town. But it was just the stark contrast of... You take me out of that setting and put me somewhere where I just wanted to be a designer. I was just obsessed with graphic design's a creative outlet. So it was, I guess it was almost in a way proving to myself that I could be what I was telling this. Sort of saying that I could do this, and went off and did it. So half the time I'm probably just trying to prove to myself that I can do things.
But I think that's an ADHD thing as well, isn't it? You can hyperfixate on something that you're really into.
Yeah.
And then you, so you're 18 and you launch a clothing line called, how do you say it?
ASAP.
ASAP. AYESAP.
Yeah.
ASAP. And is this sort of the beginning of Mitch the Promoter?
Yeah, it is. So, so the butchery job was just in school when I was 15 to, earn $30 a week and put gas in my car. And then that second job at Amazon was sort of, straight after studying design, going into Amazon and then getting obsessed with clothes whilst I'm there, creating a clothing label, which is ASAP, and realizing that it actually takes money to run a business and just sort of struggling, like just the real hustle of having no money, but trying to print some shirts and then try facilitate getting them into, like I was friends with the guys at Bordertown, and they sort of, at least I had a bit of an outlet there, trying to sell online, trying to do it all myself, and effectively realizing that it's very hard to do business. That was my shock entrance into the business world. But the one amazing thing that came from that, like many people who accidentally fall into business or certain companies, was that I threw a launch party for the brand, because that's all I could think of that doesn't cost me money. I just got my friends to sell $10 tickets to their mates. So I knew the one thing I did have was a network of good friends. And so, if I ask you to sell, I just said, if you sell 10 tickets to your mate at $10 each, you get a free ticket. And, that's, if I had 20 mates doing that, and sort of create this little snowball effect. And when you're young, it's quite easy to get people to a party. That becomes very hard later on. But so, yeah, cut a long story short, this launch party, man, imagine me as a kid that's just had no money, losing money, 18, losing money on clothing, and I throw this launch party and there's 600 people there on K Road, and it was just a bender, really. Like, I just, 5 a.m. just stumbling out of there, and maybe the party must have cost me $2,000 because I ended up with like $4,000 profit. And I was like, this is the dream. Like, I just had the best night of my life, and I woke up with $4,000. I don't even think I'd ever had $4,000 before. I had a $600 car, so that was the beginning of being a promoter.
Was that like an aha moment?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That was, it was, again, it's probably far-fetched to think that you can make money on this party. In my head, what if I can do that next weekend? If I can do that the weekend after? So, yeah. But I knew that it was what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. If you think about what I do and, the way that my brain works, I need to run a business where it's consistently like project based and just leading on to the next thing. So, we talked about Fisher. It's book the act, put all this work into it, deliver it, and then it's done. It's gone. It's just a memory. It's just but then you're on to the next thing. And so you're constantly chasing the dragon. You're chasing this high of like, what's the next thing? And it works perfectly for me. Like, it's just, I think I was just designed to be a music promoter because it's just, I love the chase.
Yeah, because there's no blueprint for that, eh? There's no course.
No.
There's no... Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could get a job at Live Nation or like Frontier Touring or something and learn the ropes, but it's not something that anyone sort of thinks to do as a career path, I guess. Yeah,
which is interesting because that's one of the most common messages I get, and I try to reply to any young person at school that's going to get out there, and they're like, "What's the process? What should I do? Should I go to uni?" And it's like the last thing I say is go study event management at uni. Right now, get together a group of friends and throw a party at some pub down the road the same way that I did, and get your mates to sell $10 tickets and sell it out, and continue to try to do that, and you will learn along the way what works and what didn't. I had 100 shows that didn't work, but eventually you click on to what does.
Yeah, you're getting your reps in, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So was this the birth of Audiology?
It was, but not in the sense that you know it now. But it was the birth of an under 18 sort of event business. So I was doing Splurge Music Festival, and that's because it operated on the system of getting reps to sell tickets. So I realised there was a real opportunity there, which is getting school kids to sell tickets to school kids, and eventually, it's 15, 16, 17-year-olds. Very intense way to get into it because you require a lot of event management and security and in terms of when you're looking at patrons that are under 18, but it was, sink or swim really, and just built that up until it was operating around New Zealand in a few spots, so there was, at one point there was Splurge Live-In, which is where you're from, isn't it?
Yeah, I was born in Lytham.
There we go.
Really?
I once that's how wide I was trying to. So there was Tauranga, Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch. We sort of got around, but that was a great way for me to. It was a great entry into the scene because if you can break that market and then eventually, I'm 18, 19, 20, I wanted to start doing proper club nights. That was the birth of Audiology then when we started doing those club nights.
Yeah, you've been doing this a long time now, eh? It's like half your life you've been doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy. And your biggest success story, I'd say, is probably Bay Dreams. That's what you're best known for? Would you say? Would that be fair to say?
I think it... It's tatted on me. Look, it was... I would say it's the biggest success story in terms of the way that it unfolded. It's not, it's an interesting relationship I have with Bay Dreams now because of just everything that unfolded and the breakup and everything that happened with it. But it is something I'll always look back on, and the reason I'll never remove this tattoo is because it was a pivotal moment where I stepped up from just doing like some smaller headline shows to like, hey, let's have a crack at a full festival. So I absolutely adore like just for a brand in 2 years to become the biggest festival in New Zealand was unheard of. I think it still holds the record for the trajectory and stuff in the way that it happened.
Because it's iconic, like the reputation. It's up there with like Rhythm and Vines or the Big Day Outs or insert name here. Like it's one of those sort of things. But you weren't there for the first one, eh? Were you in India?
Yeah.
So you're putting on a festival and you're not even there. How does that work?
Oh, look, because that was that happened so fast. So that was I think it was like August or September that we decided we're going to give Bay Dreams a crack. By October it was launched. It only had 2 months until the 2nd of January when it was, we only had 2 months to promote it or just over. And I'd already locked in my cousin's wedding in India at that point. So part of the condition was like, keen as to do this, I'll give it my all. It was Tauranga City Council and stuff wanting us to put Bay Dreams together because of, remember the chaos that it used to be Year's on the street and the beach. And so anyway, so I was like, I'll give this my all, I'll market, the shit out of it. But unfortunately, I'm going to be in India. So, it was the crazy, man, such a fond memory is like I'm riding a camel trying to get 3G service holding my phone up because the gates had opened and all I wanted was for my event manager to just say like, it's all good because you just, anxiety, you're not there, right? So you don't know what's happening. It's pouring down with rain. And I remember just calling, please tell me it's all good. Yeah, so I was camelback.
So where are things at with Bay Dreams now? Is it still your baby?
Yeah. So
what were you talking about before? The split and stuff.
So we'll see how deep we can get into this. But yeah, effectively 4 years ago, I split with my partner that I started it with. So there was some, heavy allegations and basically I just went the complete opposite direction. And that ended up being a monster fallout. Took, a year of accountants and lawyers and just not something I would ever want anyone to go through. We ended.
Was it just a case of, you think you know someone and then you're on this integrity path and they're potentially not?
Yeah, it was, and it's you sort of question everything after that. But it was, we were definitely on different paths, two different people. And there were elements that actually, that's what created, success in some ways. But it was definitely a case of thinking, or being manipulated, or it's really hard to know exactly what happened. But I reflect on that a lot. But we're definitely two completely different people. And then I started, people start to question you when you're attached to someone like that. So the fallout. The fallout was pretty big, but I basically just did everything I could to work through it in the best way that I could, So we got out the other end of that, and that's why it's this weird, we ended up with the brand, and I got a new partner, and so things were positive in that regard, but also it's always
sort of tainted now.
Tainted's the right word. It's tainted, but also. It also left us quite motivated to bring it back. And it's just had a year off, so that's why it's sort of strange timing because Fisher replaced Bay Dreams the year just gone. So we're looking at it for this upcoming summer, but there's another massive act that's going to replace the sort of Fisher model. And I guess we're in a position now where we're almost wondering, have we just found a new model because that was our most successful summer we've ever had? And I don't want to get so attached to brands that it actually ends up, you can sort of, again, like I was saying, when chase a dragon, it's like, especially with me getting fixated on something, you can end up in dangerous territory unless you are willing to be a bit flexible, find other ways.
So something like that, like a split in a business partnership, which by all accounts sounds like it was pretty sort of nasty. Like, yeah, how long does it take to get over that? Do you ever get over it? Or have you got trust issues now to a degree?
yeah, man. You develop a pretty thick skin. I think there's an emotional part of it that you'll never get over. Right? There was being dragged into it and then starting to question yourself. I mean, like genuinely believing like I'm in this to do the right thing, and now look at me, I'm having to pitch in front of a boardroom and explain to people that I'm not him, and that's a really hard place for someone like me that likes to pretend like I don't care what people think, but heavily care what, like it's
everyone does.
Everyone likes to say that, and so I was like, man, just that reputational damage, but it's like, to give you an example, I mean, we're 3.5 years into this, and he's sent an email out from an anonymous email of photos of me saying things in group chats, or like photos of Mitch is doing drugs, and sent it out to every council and police member in New Zealand, and this is only like 3 months ago. So you're still dealing. You're sort of like over one part, but there's still this hangover. There's still this hangover there, and there's something new all the time. But then I've always been such a firm believer that karma takes care of itself. So it's kind of, I don't know, action over words. I mean, obviously I sent an email out saying this is my ex-business partner and it's defamatory and whatnot. But also, how nice is it to just wait? And then you just look at the collapse of Juicy Fest now, and it's. I just knew that it would take care of itself, and it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah. The guy we're talking about, there was a photo on Instagram a couple of weeks ago of him, I think in Dubai or somewhere with the Tate brothers.
Do you see what I'm like? The story literally writes itself. There's nothing I could do to make that situation any worse. It's already.
But it seems like you're two completely like polar opposites in terms of people, and I suppose that's what you're saying before. Like that can work from a creative friction sort of perspective. But yeah, did you not see that side of him?
So master manipulator, I'd say, and I don't mean that from a perspective of like an excuse, but it's when you deal with someone that's say there's definitely a side of them, and there's that bad side, and then you've, like with anyone, right? They're always going to show you, they're going to put their best foot forward, especially when you're getting into a partnership. And that whole process was him calling me up, going, "I've changed. I want to be a better man. I'm a family man now. Let's he already had the bit of a reputation before that, and I'm a sucker for people that want to be better and want to do good. I see the good in people, and that's how we got into business. Man, if you want to change and you want to do this, let's do this. Everyone deserves a second chance, sort of vibe. And I guess that's, for a few years there was a huge element of that. It would often almost confiding in me to, it almost felt like I was doing a good service in terms of. In terms of sitting down with someone and them asking my advice and what would you do, and so it's not that I didn't understand there was a side of him, but completely blindsided by the depth of it and sort of what unfolded, just mind blowing, because 99% of that stuff is, I mean, it's in private, right? Like, you don't know the allegations and stuff that came out. and it was also at the same time really hard to get out of a business relationship, because in NZ just the law around it is quite intense, and we had to take you can't just tell someone, hey, I don't want to be in business with you anymore, and walk out. You have 15 companies that have to be legally separated, which means effectively we had to buy him out. So imagine the process of buying someone out at a multiple that they're deciding.
It's a lot of untangling.
It was a year of untangling, but still the best thing I ever did, and our businesses have, since then it's been a journey.
Yeah, well, there's you talked about karma before, and like the truth in things generally always comes out, doesn't it? Or cream rises to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever saying you want to use.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the emotional toll that must have taken on you personally, though, must have been massive.
It is massive for sure, for sure. And it doesn't just affect you as well, right? It affects, to see the sort of flow on effect of it is, like my wife having to support me through that, or it's hard for anyone to deal with, despite the fact that I was, obviously trying to press on and like run these companies and actually try from a business perspective. But I just think the emotional toll and the way that it makes you act around people and the way that it changes you as a person is, I'd say that's the hardest part.
Is that the biggest adversity you've been through?
Yeah, well, this
it's in the top 10.
Oh no, it is the biggest emotionally. I mean, I'm sure you know the story of almost dying in Bali, and that's like there's different types of adversity, and I love how I'm a UFC nut, and Alexander Volkanovski said the other day that adversity is a privilege, and that stuck with me, because if I look at all of these situations, they're all really different, but they've all unfolded really well for me in the end. But that's because you have to treat adversity as an opportunity to genuinely get better. I didn't, when that whole thing unfolded, didn't go fake it and tick some boxes. Like, genuinely had to just go do some work and figure out for myself, like you gotta look inward, and that was the hardest part, because you start questioning yourself. And but yeah, there's been a lot of adversity in different ways, and there's been a few times that I've been in the media for the wrong reasons, and a few times that I've been in it for the right. But it's, I don't know, you get a pretty thick skin on one hand as well.
Yeah, one of those media things. I wasn't aware of this until I started Googling you in preparation for this podcast. But the blackface thing, I felt a bit sorry for you with this. So you were like 18 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
And you and 4 other mates are dressed up as the Jackson 5.
Yeah.
And this came out maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So you're 18 at the time when it happened, 30 when it came out. Now we all know now that blackface is bad and it's racist and we shouldn't do it. But at the time when you did it, I don't think there was that sort of like awareness, and I don't believe there was any malicious intent. I've even done it myself once. Like when I was at the Edge, we were doing a party for, I think it was Bar 101 or something in Hamilton, and it was like a pop star party, and I dressed up as Will I Am. For this sanctioned event.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because there was peak Black Eyed Peas, but at the time, no one flagged it. No one from MediaWorks promotions department, no one from the spa, no one at the party. So obviously now, I'd be mortified if there was a photo of it that surfaced, because it would really bite me in the arse in a bad way. But this would have been about the same time you were doing the Jackson 5 thing.
Yeah.
And it seems kind of unfair, I don't know, like to rake someone over the coals for something when they were completely naive and, I suppose, ignorant to it at the time.
Yeah, I was. That was probably the first. That was the first major bit of adversity that I'd ever dealt with in terms of the media, and I was heartbroken, because before that I was like, oh, the guy that did Bay Dreams, and all of a sudden you're just the blackface guy, and it was dark, because again, like, you start questioning yourself. Because I'm looking back at it, and it was my profile cover photo for 2 years or whatever, and it's hundreds of people thought it was great, and then I'm going on the flip side, like, because I didn't understand it, but again, like, go away, do the work. Like 99% of people that have an issue with it don't actually know why, but I wanted to actually go away and heavily research and understand why what I did was wrong, because I was so taken back, and the way that unfolded was two promoters that had an issue with me surfaced it to have a go, right? So I'm sitting there just trying to be so defensive, as I naturally am, and yeah, it's, again, like, credit to my wife and just helping me through that and helping me see that I was, at the end of the day, I was completely in the wrong, regardless of the timing or understanding it. It's just I just issued an apology, and that taught me a lot as well. It taught me a lot to just take accountability and just, sometimes all you want to do is get your guard up and go, well, you don't know that it was a dress-up like you don't know that.
Try and add context.
But
there was the old USA President Ronald Reagan. He had a saying like, explaining is losing.
Yeah. Honestly, and it has paid off for me big time. And I'm not good at it, and I'm getting better. But sometimes take accountability and just apologize, learn, and move on. And again, incredible part of that is I actually ended up building stronger relations. So the people's objective was to take me down. The outcome of it was that I built stronger relationships with people in media that I've personally apologized to and publicly apologized. And people go, oh, you're just human, and so the outcome with the fallout with my business partner, the blackface, the situation in Bali, all these situations that if you treat it as an opportunity to get better, and it's always worked out. So I'm a glass half full sort of guy when it comes to that now. At the time, I was burying my head in a pillow, just crying. So it's
I bet I can't imagine the toll it took on your mental health at the time.
Yeah. It was pretty heavy. It was definitely pretty heavy.
The Bali thing you've alluded to a couple of times. I've heard this on a couple of podcasts. So what was it in a nutshell? Basically, you had to leave Bali in a disguise. Like, you could have been thrown in a Balinese jail, or beaten up, or
that was just a crazy series of events, which is. And we'd be here for 2 hours if I tell this properly, and everyone knows the story now. But effectively, just corruption. Try to run a festival, and the corruption it took me to the point where I was basically hiding on an island and escaped on a jet boat, and I paid off the wrong people, and I was in the news, and for nothing other than just wanting to put on a party for people, and people had flown in from around the world, and I just felt this immense pressure to make it happen, and I ended up paying people paid the military to defend against the police. Eventually the Navy came and arrested the guy I was working with. I escaped on a jet boat and got caught and detained and eventually deported.
Wow. Are you allowed back in Bali?
No. Funny story there is I thought that so they basically said you're blacklisted for life, but then when I Googled it, it's normally a 5-year blacklist. So 5 years later, I tried to go back. Trust me, tried to go back for my friend's wedding, and I got off the plane and she swiped my passport and her face went white. This is 5.5 years later or something, and then they just detained me in a room instantly, and I just went, this is it. Like, they've been waiting for me to come back here. Now they're going to put me in prison because they wanted to get me in prison the first time, and they just put me. I had two choices. It was prison or it was get back on back onto the plane in the same seat that I was in, flew back to New Zealand, and it turns out that I was blacklisted with like rapists and murderers, and it's the highest level of. That's why she was like, she went ghost you, probably thought that I killed somebody or something. So, and then the other day, my business partner who's over there, he goes, hey, I've met someone that I think can wipe your blacklist, So he goes, it's going to cost $4,000 US. I went, that's ironic. It's the same amount of money I paid the last person, It's just this, I can't even explain the level of corruption there.
But was it all a misunderstanding? Or you didn't do anything wrong?
No, we did. Oh man, it was like got the visas, we had the right venue. They invented this permit to start getting money out of us, and what started as $5,000, $10,000, eventually we'd paid, tens of thousands of US dollars to people, including high-level cops, including the main person that was supposed to say yes, get around the boardroom table, paid him the money, signed the form, and he just goes, I don't know what you're talking about. And as the process starts again, you got to pay them more money.
Wow, just a corrupt system.
Yeah.
There's a book I really like called Extreme Ownership, and it's by this guy Jocko Willink, and it's basically in any situation you figure out like what you did wrong or what part of the blame you can take in it.
Yeah.
With something like the Bali thing, like what can you take from that personally and do better with?
Yeah, and we were just talking. I was saying that with that North Star being integrity, it's like, well, I should just be trying to take accountability, right, and trying to figure out what part I played in that. But I guess it goes back to that I probably never should have jumped at that opportunity that someone presented me. It was another promoter that presented me with that opportunity to go to Bali and run a show, but I did no due diligence. I did absolutely zero. I just said yes and flew on the plane, and so I need to learn something around the decisions that I'm making and how, and actually putting a little bit more thought into them. But outside of that, I felt like we ticked all the boxes. I felt like we were just trying to do the right thing and throw this party, and then just got absolutely swindled.
Wow. Costly lesson.
A
lesson nonetheless.
I came back with nothing. That was one of the times that you're talking about shows that can completely end your business. I came back with $0 and had to restart Audiology after that.
Wow. Yeah, 6 occasions where you've lost everything, right? What's the most money you've lost on an event and the most money you've made on an event?
Most money I've lost on one show would be close to, if you're including like a brand that was like a couple shows, probably 1.4 million, 1.5 million maybe. Definitely 700-800 grand on like one headline show a few times, in the last sort of 10 years. I won't say which acts because then it makes them look bad. But there's been situations. This is again my problem with jumping into things too early. But I've booked acts that I think are huge. That because I grew up on them and I've brought them to New Zealand and lost 700 grand. And you're just sitting there going, that was an expensive party and an expensive lesson for my friend.
So are you aware that you've lost before the event goes ahead?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the craziest thing. You still got to, still put a smile on your face and make sure that it's still, and you still got to make sure, say you've reduced the venue, like, that example I was giving before, brought an act, planned on doing 15,000 people outdoors, ended up doing 6,000 people indoors. Everyone else had an amazing time. You get an intimate experience with this band, and you got to sit there. The days leading in that you're either losing $500,000 or $1 million, and then you just got wondering which end of the spectrum it is. And to be clear, at that we didn't have that money to lose. We're talking about being a business. That was one of those bad decisions where you remortgaged the house, which I've also done a few times.
Is this just the cycle of the nature of the beast, the cycle of this sort of business that you're going to win 2 and then lose 1? Yeah.
Again, it's that if you compare it to poker, you're never going to win 100% of the time, but you get better. You get better at this calculated gambling situation, and we're at a point where some of our brands like Audiology. So Audiology does use it's more specifically electronic music, but we've got that niche and we sell out 95% of the shows, and it's this awesome little beast. And then Trademark, my other business, does more the larger festivals, and so I guess we're lucky to be at a point now where we're winning more than we're losing. But you will never ever get them all, and neither does Live Nation. And how many times do they bring artists over that flop or cancel the second Spark Arena show? It's all good. That's just how it is. Like even the pros can't get this right.
And when everything goes really well, like how much can you make on an event? Like say the Fisher gig that we've talked about. Like how much would the company make on that?
There was 2 shows. You can, not that gig specifically, but you can make $1 million. You can lose $1 million on a show that size, or make $1 million on a show, and that's the variance. Wow. Yeah. So when you're talking 30,000 people like Bay Dreams, we've had a Bay Dreams that's lost $1 million, and we've had a Bay Dreams that's made $1 million. So I would say that's the spectrum when you get to 20 to 30,000 people.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about some of the artists that you've brought to New Zealand, and if there's a story to go along with them, maybe you can share it. Some of these, I've listened to so many podcasts that you've been on. So
that's amazing.
I think I've listened to every podcast you've done, so I know there's a story for some of them. We'll start with Omi.
Wow.
Do you remember Omi? I'd say he's a one-hit wonder, maybe 1.5. He had a song called Cheerleader and another one called Hula Hoop.
I didn't even know the other one. So yeah. Good on him. That was So that was prior to us having. So now there's software, right, that can really break down the stats. So I can tell you how many, like I was saying, listeners. I can tell you the engagement level that you have. So if you're bringing over an artist that doesn't have huge streams, but they're huge on TikTok, you can look at what's their engagement in TikTok in Auckland during this period. So it's a little bit. We're just so data driven now as a nation. It was worldwide, but it's back then. Omi had a number one song on the radio, and so we just went book him now, book him before it's impossible to book him, and I was just talking about this one openly. I genuinely think we announced it and sold 7 tickets. And can you imagine us just I thought we were home run sellout. I'm like, yes, this is just full confidence, gut feeling. Gut feeling doesn't always pay off.
Completely wrong. Oh, poor Omi. What about T-Pain?
T-Pain. I've got a funny history with T-Pain because I sort of, not in the very, very early days, but in, early, I don't know, maybe 2014 or something. So brought him out here, and we were doing a lot of sort of old school R&B and hip hop at the time, a brand I've got called Talk Later. And brought him out here and had a really successful couple of shows, and he blew everyone's mind, because it was one of the first times that people realized he's not just auto-tune. He actually can sing, he actually can dance. He's a weapon performer. Super successful run. Couldn't wait to get him back. Next time we bring him back, he basically decides he wants to be a DJ, and he wouldn't perform live. But our contract had him for live, and it was wild because he basically turns up and he goes, "I'm just going to DJ." We said, "If you do that, which he did." He goes, "No, I'm going to DJ. I'm not going to sing live." And people in Christchurch, people were throwing shit on stage, and again, as a promoter, that's worst case scenario because people aren't enjoying the show. It's not about the money at that point; it's the reputation, and they're complaining. And he ended up putting up videos saying who are these promoters? He's like, I'm DJing, and basically just calling us out when. But the promoter's always wrong in that sense because the artist is almost like the customer's always right, because they've got a louder voice. And what am I going to do? Post an Instagram shot of the contract? Probably could, but so anyway, we just I think that show was so bad that the next day he agreed to do half DJ, half live at the next, and so sort of DJing but a bit of singing. It sort of just got through. I don't know, sort of.
Why did he not want to do a show?
No, artists just changed.
Right.
He just felt like he hadn't been. It was called a DJ live set, but it was literally just DJ without the live. I mean, he was there physically, but anyway, ended up taking him in Christchurch to the strip club afterwards, and I just thought this is one of those oh yeah, aha moments, where I'm like, okay, I've got T-Pain in a strip club right now. It's 3 a.m. And we walked in, and I swear, no word of a lie, I'm in love with the strippers playing as we roll in. Couldn't have been any, and this was not planned. And so these girls are dancing, and he rips out his phone, and he's just filming, and I'm in love with the stripper, and this big bouncer comes over, and he goes, "Put your phone away, man," and T-Pain's eventually I was like, yeah, just put it away. Puts his phone away. And he pulls it out again and he starts filming, and this bouncer's just like, "Told you to put that phone away, man." And he just goes, he goes, "You're allowed to play my content, and I'm not allowed to get your content." and starts arguing with this bouncer. The bouncer just starts walking us out because it starts to get quite heated. T-Pain goes outside, kicks this car, and everyone's starting to like. But yeah, I was just sitting there going, what, it's like, what is life, eh? Because I grew up listening to this guy, and now I'm like with him kicking cars, and it was just. There's been plenty of moments like that, but that one's classic.
Oh, that's such a cool story. Do you typically have much to do with the artist, or is it just case by case?
Yeah, I try my best, because I think my objective is to make sure that they like love New Zealand. I probably go a little bit extra in terms of the hosting, and these days it's taking them to play golf, but it's always been whatever you want, take you to show you around, let's go to Waiheke, there's always extra activities outside of the show days. What I can say though is it's not very prominent in terms of hip hop. It's it's sort of a lot of the electronic DJs, they love it, and with really good relationships, like friends that would come to my house and just do cool shit. And yeah, it's a lot harder with the big American guys, I'd say, as much as you try.
Yeah. What about Bryan Adams? You brought Bryan Adams to New Zealand?
Yeah.
Amazing.
That was an incredible one, because that growing up in South Africa, I'm sure it's the same in New Zealand, but he was an icon, like we grew up listening to every album, Dad was playing it all the time. Dad was singing it all the time, singing, Bryan Adams. And so that was one of those, still to this day, top 3, acts that I've ever brought over, because it just hit an entirely different, just an emotional, pulled an emotional string where it's introducing my parents to Bryan Adams. Like,
oh, no way.
Yeah. That was always, and that's all I thought about when I toured him. Like we did massive crazy plays at Vineyards, and we sold lots of tickets, but nothing beats that feeling of like, so it's putting on something that my family actually, wanted to come to, and they came to Snoop Dogg and stuff, but it's Bryan Adams as Bryan Adams, it's like, that was beautiful.
Cardi B, do you have anything to do with her?
Yeah. Crazy. Taking her to Nelson was mind blowing, because an act that was the year that she blew up. Taking her to Nelson, and it was just again. Sometimes you step back and it's almost like laughable. Some of the things that we were doing, because huge American artist. She's actually super shy and super quiet in real life. I remember being really like taken back, meeting her and asking her to sign some shoes, and just when she's just outlandish personality on social media. A lot of them are like that, by the way, but I'm sure you've met tons. But I just remember going, this is a stark contrast to who I thought you were going to be.
Well, everyone's just human, eh? And there's, I suppose, a persona.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you get your shoes signed for? Are you a memorabilia guy?
I am. I'm pretty bad with remembering it all. So normally it's whatever posters we can find. But we just had this thing going where we would get custom printed Converse shoes. So had like a full like mural on the side of her, and then she signed one side, and it's in my studio.
Oh, how good! Yeah, you got a studio at home, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. What do you do in the studio?
Not what I should be doing. It's when I, again, offshoot of a company, but ended up starting like more of a management agency company for artists, because I just felt inspired to like help Kiwi artists. I felt like a bit of my duty, really, running all the festivals, but then it's now we need to give them a platform. And so signed a bunch of artists and said, here's a studio, use it whenever you need, record. And we did do some recording, but it honestly, that studio's only turned into my office. It's my day-to-day. Yeah, it's turned into an office, set up to be a studio, but not much music goes down in it.
Oh, good. Be a great place to put your daughter when she starts teething. Just put her in the soundproof booth and just leave her there.
That's right now.
What about Wiggles? You brought the Wiggles to NZ.
Yep, another one of those emotional decisions.
I'll say, how so? That was before your daughter was born, eh?
Yeah. I mean, it was Kaya Events. I set up the business for her. I knew I'd hand it to her at some point. So brought the Wiggles here, turned it, the cool part about that was turning it into like a rave, or just giving it like a twist of what I do. It wasn't a traditional Wiggles show. It was crazy. The parents enjoyed it as much as the kids, I think. Again, that's like Bryan Adams for me. It was I get all my family into one room, my nieces and nephews, they're just lined up there, and I bring the Wiggles in. I mean, it's like, I didn't even care how much money I lost on that show.
You lost? Oh, yeah. There was, oh, no.
Yeah, well, because we went over on the production, we went over on everything, but I didn't. It just wasn't about that for me. It was, again, that's why I call that one an emotional decision, and it was awesome. Would not change a thing.
How can you enjoy a show when you know you've lost money on it? Like, aren't you standing there with a sour taste in your mouth?
No, I think you sadly, hey mate, I think you sort of get. I don't want to say you get used to it, but
you just know the ebbs and flows of the business.
Yeah, exactly, and you know that there'll be some losses. You know there'll be some wins, but I think again, if it lost money, but I mean, to have that experience with my family, it sort of just gets to a point where it's a little irrelevant, you know, like, 10 years ago would have cared because I wouldn't have been able to go to, run a show the week after. But yeah, that one was, I can't explain the look on my nieces and nephews' faces when the Wiggles walked into a room.
People might say, oh, that's priceless, but actually it's not. It's a couple $100,000.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly how much that cost. What I can tell you is you're better off buying the meet and greet package instead of trying to run your own show.
Have you always had like a real healthy relationship with failure? Failure gets a really... there's so much negative connotations with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are fearful of it, eh? I know I have been through my life.
Yeah.
I'm trying to redefine what failure means because it's a stepping stone to success.
There we go. Yeah, and anyone that's successful talks about failure a lot. It's the irony. It's just the differences we push through, or the differences. Perseverance always beats failure. So I developed. I'd say I had a good relationship with it in the sense that failure, on one hand, failure wasn't an option. On the other hand, it was through failure that I knew I would find success. So I just always, it was okay that certain brands didn't work. I didn't care that, don't get me wrong, when the clothing line and stuff, I was just gutted, like in the early days. But as you start to grow and start to find success, you actually care less about the things that don't work. Even right now, failure almost excites me now because it's 15 years of running things. It's what can I learn from it? The reason I'm taking on a restaurant right now is because I've got a huge chance of failure. Like it's not even an industry that I'm in. It's a very difficult industry to be in. Every single person I spoke to told me not to do it. It excites me even more. It's what's the worst case? I have a restaurant that doesn't work. I think people just need to get over that fear of failure. It'll help them tenfold to just take chances.
Well, it can be crippling, can't it?
100%.
Yeah. What about COVID? How was COVID for you?
Oh, fantastic. It was a crazy thing. So COVID, this is why I started branching out my companies, because when COVID hit, so everything I had built to that point, so built up the music events, festivals and shows, then started buying the fencing, the portaloos, the sound system, started buying things connected to music. Okay, COVID hits, every single thing didn't exist. And so and the crazy thing is my wife owned a ticketing business. So the two of us are sitting there locked down together with no companies. This is going to be make or break. And look, the strange thing with COVID is it did end up being okay for us because I don't know if you remember that red light, orange light system, but there were moments in there where when it went orange, we could run outdoor events, and we were just smashing these outdoor events in these gaps, much to the despise of a lot of the older population because they were calling them super spreaders. And
that's a phrase I haven't heard in years.
Remember the super spreaders?
Super spreader events.
Oh, it was because our DJs were the ones coming over doing 2 weeks quarantine and then playing shows.
Have you ever considered quitting or pivoting? Like, have things ever got really tough that you've actually contemplated it?
Never quitting. I've definitely considered selling or trying to do other things, which I do every week regardless. So, I used to say no. Now I'm more open to. I sort of just like to take every day as it comes because the opportunities. I don't know what's around the corner. If there's a huge partnership, if there's the opportunity to go overseas, or I just like to stay I like to sort of keep the options open and be a bit spontaneous with that.
Yeah.
But no, I would never quit.
Have you always been a resilient guy? Or do you think
Yeah.
it's been sort of like a muscle that's been built over the years?
Resilience is 100%. That's just a trait that's been there.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I get that from, to be honest. But it was just there was no option apart from making this work. And if you're that heavily invested, it will always work. I've never seen a scenario where it doesn't. It's just how many times are you going to fail before you eventually get there.
Yeah. Are you much of a goal setter? Like, do you have like 5-year goals, 10-year goals, or do you just sort of like take opportunities as they come? And
Yeah, take opportunities as they come. I've moved away from my email signature used to actually just be opportunist, and then I realised there's sort of some negative connotation to that. But I'll try set goals sort of 2 or 3 years, and try not go too much further than that from a business perspective. I think it's amazing. Like now for me, the goals I would set are more lifestyle driven. They're not business driven, if you know what I mean. Like I've only just got into health, and I know you got big into running. I was extremely unhealthy because all I did was work up until 18 months ago, and then now I prioritize my health, my family, and then business. So now those are the goals. So when where do I want to be in 5 years? Well, I want to be an extremely active, healthy dad, and then sort of like, and I want to be traveling, and well then cool. How does reverse engineer that? How is my business going to fit into that? And if I have to sell some companies, then I'll do it. If I have to, those are the things that we sort of discuss I discuss with my wife.
Yeah. One big thing I've got from doing this podcast for 3 years now is you can't take your good health for granted, eh?
Absolutely not.
You've got to protect that with everything you've got. Have you seen the Avicii doco?
I haven't yet.
Oh,
I haven't.
mate, yeah, he was exactly the same, like just hyper fixate on work. And his people would come and give him food, and he just wouldn't eat it because he'd just be like zoned in on what he was doing. And he ended up being incredibly unhealthy.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm definitely going to watch that, but that reminds me a lot of, honestly, I would work so consistently. I don't like the term work hard, but I was just working so consistently and non-stop that I could easily forget to eat. Like there'd be days where all I'd have is a coffee and it'd be 3 p.m. and I go, oh shit, like I should probably eat something, But those are the big changes that have happened for me in the last, honestly, only in the last 18 months. You start to learn that it's just so much more important. But also it makes you, the irony is when you take time to work out or drink water or eat well, you actually are more productive and you have more of an output. So that interests me because it's how do you fit more in your day? Well, the irony is that you want to actually, when you're working, you want to be in a deep work state, and if you can, that's how I sort of break down my day. I'm focusing on a lot of things, but I've worked out how to really hone in on something for an hour, pull out and go into the next thing and break it up.
Do you have like a strict morning routine or anything?
No, I'm not one of those.
It's like a Huberman.
I'm almost jealous of some of those things that I just, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you got to wake up at 4 a.m., ice bath at 4:15 and win the morning, win the day. And it's like, and I'm the opposite. And I actually feel quite guilty at times because I only wake up early now because of Kaya. Prior to that, I would work late at night and wake up late. So, look, it's slowly changing, but I don't think I'll ever be one of those 4 a.m., 5 a.m. people. I don't know, maybe.
Never say never.
Never say never.
Are you doing some work with Israel Adesanya?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah.
Is this top secret, or can you...
No, I can fully talk about it. I mean, apart from the lineup, that's a never-ending debacle. But so we, being South African and also being a massive UFC fan, sort of just had the opportunity to pitch to David and Izzy, the brothers, and they got their family involved and they liked what they heard, which is basically, I was like, New Zealand needs a cultural festival that celebrates, African music, and if you look at the growth of Afrobeat music, monstrous, right? Like My FM, 30% of their playlist now is Afrobeat, and I could see the trend. And I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to partner with the right person. And Izzy's big into music and dance. So ended up forming this partnership, which has been awesome. And we've teased the project, and then when we got deep into booking the lineup, we realised how extremely difficult it is to get some of these artists, and we're just in the final stages now. So yeah, we've told people it's launching in October. At the moment, it's still all go like it should be. We should be announcing it in 4 weeks.
There's a lot of balls in the air, eh?
A lot of balls.
A lot of balls. So you're planning. You're talking and doing deals now for shows that will come to New Zealand. How far in the future?
We are
5 years in the future, 4 years in the future.
No, it's always about a year. So right now we're heavily booked up till April next year. So almost like Audiology's almost got shows every weekend until April next year. The biggest stuff is normally a year in advance. To say if we book Snoop or someone like that now, it'll be for this time next year or Q4 next year. So it's never 3 or 4 or 5 years because of the way that music works. It's like they're normally touring around something, an anniversary of an album or a new release, or so you can't 4 years from now they can't tell me how the value of Fisher. Right now they can tell me, so it's never that far in advance, but we try.
Did you buy 36 acres of land, like around Auckland somewhere? I think I heard this on a podcast.
Did you? Man, it's amazing.
What's amazing?
I don't remember. No, I just don't even remember saying that. I feel like you know some things.
I go pretty deep with the research. Yeah, awesome. 36 acres of land. Whereabouts? Like in rural Auckland somewhere?
Yeah, it's in a place called Aka, which is by 10 minutes from Pukekohe. That story's, that's quite funny. It was an opportunity to buy some land that we wanted to develop for events because, we were talking about how events, you spend all this time, you roll in for one day and you pack out. I wanted some land that we could slowly chip away at, and 20 years from now, it'll be an amazing festival site. The way that the reason Tomorrowland and stuff is so impressive is they own the land and they're consistently adding to it and building and changing. And also I became quite obsessed with just development of land and property. And so we own the land. To be honest, up until this point, we've started the consent for events, but mainly focused on, there was 2 old hoarder homes on it that we basically bowled down and rebuilt. So it's been a slow process, but the idea there is that we eventually have a venue, a large scale festival venue.
Amazing. So it'll be like, what are you thinking? Is it sort of up in the air? Or are you thinking like your own sort of Coachella or Tomorrowland, or will you rent it out to other promoters? Or
I think it'll be that perfect balance of so when you get consents, they're normally for a certain capacity over a certain amount of time. So quite common for that would be 5 large scale events annually, and there's a whole process of getting all that signed off. And one lady's got horses next door and she can say no. But anyway, eventually you get there, and of those 5, I might use 2 of them, and then the other 3 we could, anyone. It's about having it's an option for like the likes of LAB or 660, or it's like large acts can play there, which is quite rare because at the moment we've got Western Springs or a stadium. So we just sort of saw an opportunity there to have something that's not too far from the city, but also it's stunning. It's like on the Waikato River runs past it, and it's flat and it's surrounded by trees. And I really do hope it turns into something. It hasn't been a huge priority for me lately, but that's the beauty of land. It's for me, that's probably a 20-year project.
Wow. That seems like a significant investment. How much is 36 acres? Not in terms of price, but in terms of what can you compare it to? Is it like Western Springs or Eden Park? What is it? How much is 36?
Yeah, we get the exact calculation, but it's but for example, it's sort of broken down into site that we thought could be used for parking, camping, and then the actual event site itself. And the actual sort of event site, so to fit 20,000 people on, you effectively would like 2 rugby fields. So that's about 3 rugby fields that we have in that area there.
Wow.
And then there's a lot of earthworks and stuff that needs to happen to get the parking. But it's, I would say it's probably horrendously incorrect, but I would say it looks like about 7 rugby fields, I guess it would be.
Wow. Yeah. Geez, that's exciting.
Yeah.
New Zealand needs big thinkers like that. People that are going to get shit done. What's your relationship like with tall poppy syndrome? What are your thoughts on that? You encountered a fair bit of that?
Oh, hugely. You know, that's when we talk about adversity. I mean, that's most of those scenarios that I've ended up in have been from competitors or people that want to push you down regardless of what you do. And I don't know, that's just...
Yeah, it's rooted in jealousy, always.
Yeah, it is. And people say I don't know how they say it's a New Zealand thing, and I'm not sure because I don't know all the other cultures. I mean, I didn't feel it in Australia, but I was still living in the New Zealand scene. So, look, I know it's heavily talked about in NZ, and I've definitely experienced it in New Zealand, and I just assumed it was a worldwide thing, you know, because it's naturally people just want to pull you down, thinking that that's their way to the top, so I've just had crazy situations where people have emailed out things about me or like just general lies, or I don't know. It's just not for me. I work with amazing people that I guess you start to keep your circle a little bit smaller and deal with people that actually want to see you succeed. And my objective is just support everyone because it makes sense. Like when you support people and they support you back. I mean, to me, it's so simple. I don't understand.
Yeah. One thing I can tell you for free: winners never indulge in tall poppy syndrome. Like you're never going to see someone like a Dan Carter or a Richie McCaw going online slagging someone else off.
There you go.
Like they're not, because they're busy doing their own thing and celebrating other people as well.
Yeah.
It's a loser's mentality.
Yeah.
And it's so icky and it's so gross.
Yeah.
It's a scarcity mindset thing, Because it's like, if Mitch is doing this, it means I can't do it. But it's like there's plenty of room at the table.
Exactly. No, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, winners focus on winning, but it's I've never encountered a situation ever in my journey where someone doing the same thing as us or at the same level has said a negative thing or done. They say negative things, but I've never seen someone take action in a tall poppy way if they're operating at a high level, which is effectively what you said.
What's one piece of advice you'd give someone wanting to start their own thing? Not necessarily in promotion, but just like an entrepreneurship journey.
The journey, I would say initially, just that at the start, it's about obviously taking that risk and having, again, going back to what we said about failure, but if you're prepared to fail as a worst case, and you know that worst case, you're back at square one and you got to start again. And if you can just wrap your head around, if you can get in the mind frame of understanding that that's all it is. It doesn't matter. People will say what they like and they can think what they like, but all you're doing is learning and creating another opportunity for yourself to have another crack. Then I believe we would see so many more entrepreneurs. We'd see so many more people doing what they genuinely want to do, as opposed to just being pushed into the sort of, whether it's university or in whatever. I mean, I just want to see people do what they're truly passionate about. But that starts with being brave and bold enough to take that first step.
Yeah, and if you're going to entertain the worst case scenario, you're also obliged to entertain the best case scenario. Like, what if it all goes right?
Yeah.
What if it exceeds my expectations?
Exactly.
Because they're both equal possibilities, right?
Yeah. So many people focus on only the negative.
Yeah. What does success look like to you today, and has it changed over time?
Oh, it has changed drastically. I mean, success for me at the start was the ability to travel. Right, so it was. I'm stoked that it was never primarily money. I mean, I do remember having a figure in mind as a teenager, the dream of being a millionaire. But it was never primarily that. I wanted the ability to have, or the flexibility to be able to travel, right, and see the world, right. So once that sort of started to happen, you start to look at things like family and success for me now is the freedom, not to travel as such, but the freedom to still be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it, but with balance in mind and prioritizing the things that are important, which though I think those take you a little while to learn. A teenager that just wants to travel the world and get drunk and see everything, versus now it's like, okay, are the things that I'm doing, do they have a positive impact? Mainly on like the close people around me, first and foremost, which that's a challenge every day. Am I taking on things that I'm proud of that will allow me to spend more time with my family and enjoy life, or am I just doing things for the sake of trying to be, cool, or trying to be the guy and trying to enjoy it? And that's always a battle. But success for me now is working every day to find that balance.
Yeah, less ego driven maybe than what it was 100%. In your 20s here. Do you think about legacy at all? Is that something you think about? What sort of legacy would you like to leave behind?
Legacies, I think the concept, I love the idea of legacy more than anything else, in the sense that what I want to achieve, I want to have like a lasting impression, and I hope that it inspires other people to do the same. But then on the flip side of that, legacy to me it's such an interesting concept, because people aren't going to remember me regardless in 3 generations. Like it's kind of almost ego driven to assume that I can leave a legacy that's going to have this massive lasting. Most people don't know their great-grandparents' name. And that's how quickly you can lose sight of, it takes a few generations. And so I guess I'm more of a now person. I'm obviously everything's for Kaya and my future kids, and the way that I'm setting them up, I'm going to give them all the things that I never had. That is beautiful to me. I feel like I've already achieved that. But yeah, I'm not going to ever. I just don't want to do things ego driven, where it's my name's going to be the promoter that they're going to remember forever. Because honestly, the coolest thing about doing what I do is realizing that people only really give a shit for a very short period of time, and then they forget. They care when they're stuck outside and they're trying to get into my show. Then I've heaps of friends, Then it's like, then you're the absolute man for 4 hours. But outside of that, my real friends don't give a shit. They don't we just laugh about it. They still mock me, and we just act like we're schoolmates.
You need that. That's a healthy relationship. Yeah. Does your what does your phone look like on the day of a concert or the week of a concert? Is it amazing who comes out of the woodwork?
It is crazy. It's an unwritten. It's been a joke for so long that even my wife, who sees what I do every day, like. It's almost, I show her, like, hey, have a look at this. There'll be like 150 messages. But my favorite one, there's always this opening line that, again, it's become this joke where it'll be like, hey, man. And because you can only see the first line. Hey, man, no, we haven't spoken in a while. Or like, hey, long time no see. And, these are... And I don't know maybe it's that ADHD thing, but I have to open every message and respond, because because that's what I do every day, right? I probably average 200 emails and 50 phone calls.
Damn.
But I love, like, ticking those things off is what keeps me calm. It's sort of
gives you pace.
If they build up, then I'm just going to be stressing, right? So it's kind of like, the worst part is I'll get these messages and then I actually action them all. Like, if it's sort of like, sometimes I'll say, hey, like, I'm busy, like I can't help, but 90% of the time I'll actually help almost everyone. And my wife gives me so much shit for it, because it's like, hey man, long time no see. I'm like, what do you mean you had hey, I noticed it's sold out online. Like, is there any way? I'm happy to pay, but is there a way that you can give me a ticket? That's what I would do.
That's my technique.
Yeah, I'm happy to pay. It's like, no, if you were happy to pay, you would have paid. It's so good.
Oh, God. Oh, well, now that we've connected, you can add me to that list. I'll be that guy.
Yes.
No, actually, I hardly ever leave the house. The last couple of weekends I've been watching Stagecoach and Coachella on YouTube. Why would they do that? Why would they have that on YouTube?
Why they live stream it?
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Like, there's no paywall or anything. I just wonder what the business thinking behind that would be.
Yeah. We've live streamed a few things, and we find it difficult because artists often there's a lot of roadblocks. But with something like Coachella, the reach is just astronomical, right? So I guess their thought process outside of the sponsorship direct cash that they're getting, their thought process, I imagine, would be that if this is broadcast to the world, it's almost like free marketing, and then the next year sells out instantly again, because it makes it cool to be there. We've broadcast some things in the past, like I said. It's never a monetary thing. It's always with the objective to reach the wider audience. Yeah, and I think it does. It builds that FOMO because now the early tickets go on sale straight after that live stream, and everyone's in there because they don't want to miss it. And
I don't know. Watching it at home on my Samsung Frame TV with beers that didn't cost me $11
Yeah.
it's pretty good.
yeah, and I can imagine that's millions of dollars to make that stream work because it's a high end
So good.
stream.
What are your biggest fears?
Outside of heights, no, I'm tackling that one. But my biggest fear, I would say, is not achieving sort of, or not living up to my potential. Would probably be the main thing, and it's probably why I take on a lot of things, and I wish I could. So I'll step it down a notch at some point, but no, I don't know. I think I've just got this. The fear is that I just feel like we can do so much on this earth, and I feel like I want to give so much, and I just don't want to be. I don't want to be 70 or 80 years old and just go, man, I should have done that. And that's that fear of not wanting to look back and say, I should have done that. That's probably why I'm trying to do everything.
Yeah. I think that would be one of the worst things, Like, dying with regrets.
Yeah, and it is.
That'd be terrible.
And that is, I mean, it doesn't take you long they've done a lot of research on that. They've asked people on their deathbed, like, and it's always the same thing. It's always, I should have done this, I should have done that. And it's not necessarily business. That's the beautiful thing. Like 90% of the time, it's like, I wish I'd spent more time with this person, or, and those are the things I'm constantly, man, I want to look back and just actually know that I was a present dad. That's like one of the hardest battles. It's easier to start a company.
What's your inner voice like? Are you quite kind to yourself, or you're very, very driven. Like, do you flog yourself, or you're quite kind to yourself?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. It's a constant battle. In terms of, again, like some of the things we spoke about and that I've been through, it's that you start to, I think everyone's got doubt, right, to some degree. And even the most confident of people, and even though I've been doing this long, I've still got those same doubts just in different areas, So you're constantly questioning, am I good enough? Am I good enough to speak like this on this podcast? Are my actions representing what I say? Like, am I actually a good person? Am I actually doing good things? So I guess I'm consistently always questioning myself, but I don't have an issue with that because it just keeps me, it's always at the forefront of my mind of just wanting, reverting back to that, just like, I just want to be having a positive impact. But yeah, my brain's just, it doesn't stop. So I guess.
Do you sleep all right?
I actually do sleep all right, which is strange, right? Because, I fall asleep fine. I can operate on not much sleep as well. I had 5 hours last night and I feel all right. But yeah, I've had no issue, even if my brain races up until a point where I've like ticked off what I need to, and then I can relax. So often the last thing I do before bed, which most people would hate, is just make sure that everything's ticked off, do my Turkish, make sure that crypto hasn't lost heaps of money, and just
control the controllables.
Yeah. Just make sure my emails are ticked off and that I have a little bit of an understanding of the next day. Just look at my calendar. Just feel. It's just ironic that I have to do work in order to actually relax
or get the work done to have a sense of peace.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
When was the last time you cried?
I cry a little bit, to be honest. I'm not.
Do you? What do you cry about? Like gratitude tears or?
No. I mean, the tears are always. I don't know, even if it's something in a relationship, or like trying to, if I'm apologizing or I tear up quite easily actually, which is quite but I mean in terms of like full blown breakdown, like just when I've had people close to me pass away, which has sadly been for someone of my age, has been a fair few. Luckily, not any close family members, but I've had just really close friends and stuff that have had really unfortunate situations, and it just
You've been impacted by suicide, haven't you?
Yeah, massively. So my 2019, my best mate who was living with me at the time, who I was sort of trying to help through his struggles. He had BPD, which is, I don't know if you know, borderline personality disorder.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was just trying to be there for him, and again, massive learning curve when you're just trying to be there for someone that you're trying to help them see the world in a different light, and the short version of that, eventually he just lost his battle after about a year and a half that he was living with me, and I'd never experienced like death in that way before. I'd never had someone that close to me pass away.
Because he was living with you at the time.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So he was in Auckland prior, but I said, hey, come down to Tauranga and basically let's just tackle one day at a time, and so the cool thing, his name's Cullen, we called him T-Stain, but the great thing with him was he loved music and the events, so it was always looking forward to the next thing, and those were normally, it could be a bush stuff or it could be a certain show that we were doing, and that sort of kept him. Yeah, it was one of the few things that just kept him positive about life. Was always talking about It gave me like a real sense of, wow, what I'm doing does have a positive impact, because it's you can see it. Yeah, you see it in people like him, where like being at an event is just the time where they're truly happy. Even if it's only for 4 or 5 hours, there's the anticipation leading up to it, leading up to a concert, the same way it leads up to someone's going on holiday, like that feeling, and then you have the moment. And then that moment's hopefully enough to, we launch something soon after that. So, that was that was one of the times that I cried for a long, long time.
Yeah, the same year, 2019, I lost a good friend as well. He had bipolar, but nobody knew. Like, he kept it hidden from everyone. And then it happened real suddenly. And he took his life in a real violent, emphatic way. Like, there was going to be no other outcome other than taking his own life, and that sent me on a bit of a journey, like looking into my own mental health, because I thought, if this guy who was the life of the party, if it could happen to him, then it could happen to me as well, and that's got me thinking about my own mental health.
Incredible. Well, the story is the same, because before that, I almost had that mentality of like, it was that toughen up classic New Zealand mentality, where like friends would tell me, if you're depressed, it's like, well, just do cool shit, like go be happy, like it's crazy, and I never understood depression, and so my journey or my understanding of that is truly like I've flipped 180. I've flipped 180 after the journey with T-Stain, with T-Stain, and seeing him be extremely happy one day and waking up just wanting to kill himself the next day, like just watching that roller coaster, and actually understanding that people can be wired differently, and it's not like that's not a hey man, go cheer up scenario. This was like, it was dark at times, and so it was a very, very dark period, but what came out of that was me having a deeper appreciation and understanding for people going through mental health, and which led to us, in his honour, creating Bring People Dancing. That's why it's BPD is the acronym for borderline personality disorder. That set me off on this other journey with events, which has been
Are you at peace that you did everything you could for your mate?
Yeah, I am. I questioned that for a while, whether I was, like, it was almost, and I don't know what it was like for your mate, but yours came as a massive surprise, whereas this scenario was him telling us, I'm going to take my life, I'm never going to see my 30th birthday. Like, it's almost, in some ways, you're like, I mean, how do you sit there and listen to one of your best mates tell you that, like, I'm going to do this? And there were a number of times where he'd tried, and I had to get him out of a car. Like we'd try to gas himself and, drive up to it's just crazy shit. But it's, it's almost harder in some ways that he was so open. I was so actively trying to help him, and he's so openly saying that this is what I want, and he felt like it was the only way that he could be at peace. And there is this small part of you, and a lot of people don't want to admit it, but there's still this part of you where like you almost start to believe them in the end. You're like, I just can't see you go through any more pain, dude. This is like, so when it eventually happened, it was like a level of, there's just
relief,
yeah.
It's rough, eh? Yeah, I suppose there's probably more than two types, but yeah, there's your mate who was making it very clear about how he was feeling, and then there's my mate who was very, very secretive about it and nobody knew. But I think both of them come with like a degree of like sort of guilt for the people left behind. Like you do question what you could have done differently for a different outcome.
Definitely,
it's tough though, eh? It's
Definitely.
Tough. Say it's your funeral. You're an old man, you die, your family and friends are there. What 3 words would you like them to use to describe you? Integrity.
Yeah, that would be the dream. I think I think I want to be remembered as fun's the right word, but I guess integrity covers a lot of things as we discussed, but even if they just said that I was just an honest man, that was family first, that was fun to be around, so like that would be far more than enough, and it's sort of just weird because I just don't imagine a scenario where they're talking, I don't care about the things that I've achieved, it's sort of like it's not even attached to music, but if they say that I operated with honesty and stuff, then that would be huge.
It's how you make people feel, eh? You used the phrase reverse engineer before, and that's what I like about that question, because I think if it's something that you can think about, like 3 words that you'd like people to describe you once you're gone, then you can start acting that way.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah. And are you proud of yourself?
I am. I think there's, I think it's healthy to be proud of what you've achieved. I don't look back on what we've done enough.
Growth mindset, eh?
Yeah, very, very much 1% of where I need to be all the time, and which keeps you humble. And it's, on one hand, people say, oh, amazing, you've achieved all this. What's it like to stand there? It's like, well, it's just nothing compared to what I would love to be able to do, So it's, are you good at celebrating the wins along the way?
Is that a work on?
I think it's a work on. No, I think. Look, I don't do enough reflection. I think celebrating the wins is like being at the event. There's no greater way. If you're at Fisher, you're standing on stage, you're looking at everyone, and you've pulled off the event. There is no. I can't even imagine a better way to celebrate it than the success of the event itself. That's the unique thing about events, is they are a celebration when you're there. But it's funny how just naturally you're just always looking ahead, and I wish I did do more reflection, but I'm super proud of what we've achieved, and I'm but I'm always more excited for the things we haven't achieved.
Well, it's good. It's good though if you got something to like look forward to. That reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. Otherwise, what you just, I don't know. I would just, maybe that's another fear. I would hate to feel like I've achieved it. I would hate to feel like I've achieved it all.
Well, I've had Anna Mowbray on the podcast.
Awesome.
She's one of the Zuru founders. Now she's set up a new company called Zeal. And I said to her, so she's a billionaire, sold out of Zuru, got $1 billion. I'm like, why did you set up another company? Like, why don't you just go on a couple of boards or go on the board of trustees for your kids' school?
Yep.
And she described, I wonder if you agree with this. Like she said, like Zuru was a mountain that she climbed, and there's many more mountains that she wants to climb.
Yes, 100%, 100%. And that's what goes back to that flexibility I want to keep. Is I don't want to get fixated on, yes, I've been heavily involved in music, and a promoter is what I would have to identify as primarily, but I don't want that to be what defines me. And if you look back from, I want to achieve things in other areas, but I don't mind. For me, it's not about the category or the industry. It's about the objective, and if the objective is impacting people positively, then it doesn't have to be music. I might just get absolutely fixated on sport, or it might be golf. Like at this stage, it's probably going to be golf. If I start running golf events, I'd be stoked, But I just think in life we got to stay open.
Hey, well, Mitch Lowe, this has been great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been like a couple of hours, and the impression I've got is that you're a man of integrity.
Oh,
yeah,
thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh no, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and I'm really excited to see what the future brings and what you do.
Amazing.
So I think the country needs big thinkers like you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thanks so much for having me, man.
Legend.
This is awesome.
Appreciate it, bro.
I appreciate it.
Cheers.